Exactly 3 years ago this week, I was spending the night at a dorm at New College at Oxford for my in-person fine arts interviews. The experience was surreal, and while walking across the sprawling greens of Christchurch for my final tutor interview, I practically fell in love with the school. I left feeling very hopeful and also excited. 2 days later, I was sitting in my grandparents' living room when I got an email from Stanford saying that there had been an update to my application status. I clicked on it. I just clicked. I got it! Oh my god! The joy that washed over me as I read the words congratulations was unmatched. Stanford had been my dream school since I was 10 years old, and I had just moved to the United States and I had my sights set, and slowly that dream felt like it was getting further and further away until that very moment when it had come true. That next month, I was invited to Young Arts Week in Miami, where I was surrounded by the most incredible artists I'd have ever met, and they were all my age. We talked about our dreams and plans for the future, and I learned how important it was for me to have the fine arts side of education combined with the liberal arts and exploration and science that I also wanted to incorporate in the work that I was making. The Brown RISD dual degree program was the perfect realization of all of those perspectives that I was looking for, and all my mentors at Young Arts agreed and vouched for the program and said it would be an incredible next step in my journey as an artist. And then during my last night at Young Arts, I was in the hotel room, my roommate was there, and I had gotten a notification from UCAS, the application portal for Oxford, that there was another update to my status. Felt completely unbelievable. Oxford had felt like this world that was untouchable, and yet here I was with an invitation to be a part of it. It was unreal. The next month, I was invited to USC to interview for the Iovine Young program, which was new and small, but extremely prestigious and extremely selective. I remember the first time I was introduced to the program and I watched the video that they'd put together for their website, and I remember crying while watching it because I'd never seen a program so well describe what I was looking for and put it into words. I didn't think it existed, and so it was a really emotional thing for me to find the Iovine Young program because I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. The interviews there were incredibly exciting and very unique. The president of the program clearly knew my and everyone's applications inside and out, was able to talk about our passions, and really it really felt like a family. A few months later, I was at home and I got the big package in the mail that had my acceptance letter, but also the unbeatable offer of a full tuition scholarship. That was exciting, and also just like, whoa, I can't believe that this is now on the table for me as well. And then not even a week later, I found out that me and one of my best friends in high school were both two of the 7 people who were accepted into the Brown RISD dual degree program. Each of these acceptances came in as huge realizations that they offered completely life-changing opportunities, and each one in a different way. And so none of this setup or background that I'm trying to give you is at all for me to try to brag about my college experience, because I know how stressful it is, but it's kind of just to give you background. In the end, I was left with these 4 programs that were all incredible and unique and offered such different experiences that I now had to make the decision, the perfect decision, the tough decision, which one I would take and which 3 I would leave. If you looked at my Instagram bio while I was trying to make this decision, you would see it change daily. At first it'd be like a wizard for Oxford, class of 2021, or then I would put a tree, class of 22, or I put like a brown heart for Brown, and then like a paintbrush for RISD. All this to say that I had no idea what I was gonna pick until the last day to decide. I was still deciding on the deadline day what I was gonna do. So I'll go through each school and then run through the decision and my thought process that I went into for each of them. So the first one is USC's Ivan and Young Academy. As I mentioned before, this was kind of like my newfound dream. I thought that the application process was innovative. I thought that the amount of care that they put into the interviews and the care that they took into getting to know each and every one of the applicants was outstanding. It felt so personal and so well thought out, and I felt genuinely like heard and seen while I was there. But here's the thing, I loved the program. I loved the people that would be in the cohort with me. I loved the people in the cohorts above me, but I wasn't sure if I was just as in love with the school itself. There's one thing that stuck out to me when I was touring the School of Cinematic Arts at USC. My dad and I were just like chilling in the building. We were looking around because I knew I was interested in film, and the people at the Ivan and Young Academy were like, well, we have students here who have been minors or even double majors who also studied at the School of Cinematic Arts, and that was something that we were really interested in. But there was this one girl and her family, and they were knocking on the door, and of course we opened it for them because they're clearly students and they're trying to get in. So we opened it, and she started profusely like apologizing to us. She was like, oh, we're so sorry, like I'm a student here, like I'm in the School of Humanities, I'm so sorry, I know I shouldn't be here, but my cousin really wanted to see the school. And I don't know, for some reason it really kind of rubbed me the wrong way when I noticed that like a student of USC who is legit here on campus feels uncomfortable in certain spaces at the school, or feels like she isn't welcome on certain parts of campus. And I just thought that I much preferred an open campus situation where everyone is allowed to be in all the spaces, and you can take classes from any department or any school if you would like. That was the main factor in me deciding to not go there. And I think even me being on a merit scholarship, I would be given housing in like the honors college, and even that kind of added to the qualm that I had, or that aspect that I felt a little bit unsure about. And just before we move on, I want to emphasize like this is nothing at all to do with any of the students who attend here, and has nothing to do with the population at the school at all. I think it's just like the way that has been set up ages ago was just something that I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is for me. The second place I want to talk about is Oxford University. And this was, believe me, a very tough decision. Because Oxford and Stanford were the first decisions that I received, it made me spend a lot of time doing comparisons between the two. And so here are a couple of things that I was juggling. So Oxford is a 3-year program, Stanford is a 4-year program. Oxford, I'd be diving headstrong and completely nosedive deep into fine art, while Stanford, I would be doing everything broad. I would be studying liberal arts. Oxford is obviously very traditional. It's a very gorgeous campus and has some really unique traditions that don't exist anywhere else. Stanford is very modern, super quirky. They've got a band that dresses up in rally, and the dorm situation is completely different than it is at Oxford, where you're living in like literal castles. At Stanford, you're living in just the dorms. Oxford is in England, which is close to my family. I'd easily be able to travel all over Europe and explore those things and be close to people that I love and care about, while Stanford is on the other side of the country and always at least a 7-hour flight from anyone that I knew. But it's also located in Silicon Valley, and it's near San Francisco, which is my favorite city in the world, and pretty much a hotspot for innovation and startups and pretty much opportunities in tech. So what I think ended up being the deciding factor for me choosing Stanford over Oxford in this case scenario was the flexibility of the courses. I knew that I wanted to have an opportunity to explore any subject that I wanted to, in case something popped up and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to dive into this, and there's a class about it and it's really new and innovative. I knew that Stanford would be the school to offer those newer ideas like virtual reality, things in psychology and neuroscience and bioengineering, and those were things that I just would not have access to if I had gone to Oxford. So the last two programs that were on my mind in the last three schools were RISD, Brown, and Stanford. And the more and more that I looked into the Rhode Island School of Design and Brown University programs, the more and more I was falling in love with RISD. And I'd visited the facilities at RISD. I saw the furniture design program. It was incredible. The students who were there in the middle of their final exam week, I'm sure, were so open to just having us see the work that they were doing and touring us around and showing us the different spaces on campus. I just kept falling more and more in love with RISD, but when I kept exploring Brown, I don't think I necessarily uncovered things that surprised me. What excited me about Brown was their open curriculum and their willingness to let you design your own major, and that was okay, that was the it factor for me. So I took a lot of time to explore their course catalog. And I think what I ended up noticing exploring the Brown curriculum offerings and the Stanford curriculum offerings were that the Brown offerings were really, really cool and expansive. But again, what I was saying with Oxford, very, very much rooted in tradition and very much more focused on the humanities side of things, which is wonderful. But I knew that I was a little bit more interested in the way that art communicated with science and art communicated with technology and new media. I saw just a little bit more of that at Stanford, and I still really, really loved RISD. And I was okay, if I'm gonna go to art school, it's gonna be RISD. It's one of the most incredible campuses for art in the United States. And I was just trying to figure out a way that I'd be able to get the foundational skills in art that RISD had to offer, especially in their foundation year. So when the decision day actually came for me to decide what I was gonna do, I actually submitted a deferral request for Stanford. I talked at length to the RISD department program and asked them if it would be possible for me to be categorized as a visiting student in the first year and use that as my gap year and then go to Stanford and enter as class of 2023. But unfortunately, they did not have space for me that year, especially because I wasn't gonna be continuing into the rest of the program. They were we do have visiting students programs, but often those are reserved for, further years. I had submitted my deferral request at Stanford and they had approved it. They were fun, go to RISD, that sounds great. But I ended up rescinding that a couple of days later and being JK, I still really want to attend Stanford. I made that decision with the idea that I would apply to be a visiting student at RISD in my junior year. Now, with everything going on in the world, it is quite unlikely that I'm gonna go through with being a visiting student at RISD, but I'm very, very happy with where I'm at right now and the progress that I've made on my major and figuring out what I want to do in terms of my academic career has been incredible and very, very rewarding. So I'm very happy that I chose Stanford. I probably could have chosen any of the other programs and had a similarly life-changing experience. I guess the moral of the story is that in the end, this is your decision to make. It's very personal. The reasons that you choose are going to be unique to you. Any of those opportunities could be the thing. And you'll never know, because I'll never know what it was like for me to attend RISD, and I never know what it would have been like to go to USC. Yes, make the decision and be very serious about it, but also don't feel remorse or sadness for the programs that you weren't able to go to or weren't able to pick, because in the end, all different pathways that you choose have ups and downs. All different pathways have pros and cons. The things that are thrown at you, the opportunities that come out of nowhere, the experience that you'll have in the next 4 or 5, however many years, honestly, the decision that you make is kind of the setting of those things. But no matter what, life keeps moving on, you made the decision, and then the other things, they are opportunities or pathways that could have been, but now you're riding steady on your pathway. I guess what I'm trying to say is that each pathway is unique in its own way, so each decision that you make is gonna be the right one in one way, shape, or another, if that makes sense. I don't know if that made sense at all, but I love getting to share my perspective and my story, and so I hope that it shed some light on, I guess, maybe why I made some decisions and maybe helped you figure out or get a little bit closer to what you're gonna end up choosing to do. Let me know if it did in the comments below. So I'd love to hear your stories, so please feel free to talk to me about them. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel for more if you feel like you want to. And I will see you all in the very next video. Thank you all. Bye.